Well, look, first of all, congratulations. Both of you guys were...
We're not there yet.
You're further than anybody said you would be. And I have enough class, and I was raised well enough to say when you outdo...
Yes, sir. Thank you.
When you outdo expectations, good for you. But there's another side to this. People have talked about a miracle. I'm hearing about a nightmare. It's hard to be a parent tonight for a lot of us. You tell your kids, don't be a bully. You tell your kids, don't be a bigot. You tell your kids, do your homework and be prepared. And then you have this outcome, and you have people putting children to bed tonight, and they're afraid of breakfast. They're afraid of, how do I explain this to my children? I have Muslim friends who are texting me tonight saying, should I leave the country? I have families of immigrants that are terrified tonight. This was many things. This was a rebellion against the elites. True, it was a complete reinvention of politics and polls, it's true. But it was also something else. We've talked about race. I mean, we've talked about everything but race tonight. We've talked about income. We've talked about class. We've talked about region. We haven't talked about race. This was a white lash. This was a white lash against a changing country. It was a white lash against a black president in part. And that's the part where the pain comes. And Donald Trump has a responsibility tonight to come out and reassure people that he is going to be the president of all the people who he insulted and offended and brushed aside. Yeah, when you say you want to take your country back, you got a lot of people who feel that we're not represented well either. But we don't want to feel that someone has been elected by throwing away some of us to appeal more deeply to others. So this is a deeply painful moment tonight. I know it's not just about race. There's more going on than that. But race is here, too. We got to talk about it.
Well, and whoever wins tonight, I mean, there is such polarization in this country. Whoever wins is going to have a very hard time in convincing the other half of the country that they can be their president as well.
That's what...
What do they do about trade? Do they withdraw from the TPP right away? What do they do about the wall? These are things that Republicans have disagreed on.
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple of ways to think about it. If you're kind of looking for now, what happens now? How do you think about this? I think if you're a progressive, there are three areas where you might try to figure out something positive. First of all, the fact that now Trump is going to own health care. He's going to own health care for at least 20 million people. And the Republicans can't just sort of stand back and let the bad parts of Obamacare go on unchecked just because they want to stick it on Obama. The Republicans are now going to have to really step up and do something. That could wind up being a positive. We just don't know. Secondly, he made a bunch of promises about urban investment and urban renewal and empowerment, et cetera. I think he should be held to those kinds of promises, and let's see if he's actually serious about those things. And then lastly, this whole question around trade. I think for the left wing of the Democratic Party, there's probably something there that can make some kind of sense. I think there are three things that are just irredeemably bad that we are going to have to resist this president on as progressives. One is all the stuff around immigration and the Muslim bashing. If that becomes a serious part of his presidency, there will be a big, big pushback from decent people in this country who do not want to see that type of rhetoric and agenda coming from Washington, D.C. Secondly, the Supreme Court is going to be a massive fight. And lastly, which we haven't talked about, is this whole question of climate and whether or not we're going to be able to make real progress on climate and climate change. The last thing I want to say, because I don't know if I get a chance to talk again, there are people around the world who are watching this. They are appalled, they are shocked, they are surprised. The markets are showing it, and there's some people who are laughing, and some of them are in the Kremlin. This is not just the first election in which you had a woman running and a business person running. This is the first election in which an enemy power deliberately and explicitly interfered in our election and got away with it. And they interfered in our election in a one-sided way. They didn't hack Democrats. They didn't hack Republicans. They hacked Democrats. And we're going to have to figure out now, what is our relationship to Russia going forward. And if Russia got away with it this time, what if the Chinese do it to the Republicans next time? We are now living in a completely different context from a national security point of view that needs to be talked about.
Jeffrey, assuming